Okay, I'm just going to wait a minute or two and see if anyone comes in here before I start, so I'm not talking to a wall. The only thing, the problem with that, doing that is then if people rewatch this and they have to sit there and wait. But I also, want to have like a real conversation. Oh, okay, there's two people. That was quick. Okay, so I wanted to talk. I was watching Olaf Anderson's stream earlier today, and he was talking about basically like, in academia or in grad school, in the academy, whatever you want to call it, there's just this, I'm going to call it an obsession with post-structuralism, French, French theory, and we basically concluded that it's all just sophistry. And you read this stuff and it really actually does come across as complete gobbledygook. I don't believe that anyone really understands it. I don't think I'm that dumb, that I'm just, too dumb to understand these things. And I actually went to three different universities when I was in undergrad, and they were all teaching the exact same thing. They were all teaching the same crap. And at the time, I just kind of went with it. I didn't really, I guess I wasn't woke enough to question it, but I definitely never actively enjoyed it. I think if you would have asked me, I would. I think if you would have asked me, I would have said, yeah, like, it's kind of lame, but it was so ubiquitous, and there was no alternative, it was just there. Anyway, the reason I was thinking about this more too was because I was looking at, I don't know if you guys have seen or heard of this YouTuber, Justin Murphy. Anyway, the guy, he's basically, I'll call him like a disaffected academic. Was basically chased out of academia for being like not woke enough or whatever. But I don't know. I'm seeing this kind of emergence of these, basically disaffected academics who reject wokeness, but they can't really see like that they need to reject the post-structuralism too. I'm not saying that necessarily leads to some sort of, well, maybe it does actually, I don't know, lead to this, crazed SJW culture, like this crazy, anti-white, whatever you want to call it. I mean, there's most people out there, I think, do reject that. I hope. I mean, the problem is, I guess, if you're in the academy, you either have to really go with it or outright reject it. People that are not, just regular people, Joe Schmo down the street with a regular job, whatever, is not necessarily thinking about this very deeply. But if you're in college, or especially in someplace like grad school, you can't avoid it. So anyway, I was looking at his Justin Murphy's channel, and he's like writing an ebook about Deleuze, trying to say, oh, Deleuze is actually really cool. He's not like all of the other, postmodern idiots, basically, who just speak gibberish. Supposedly he's claiming that Deleuze isn't. But on the other hand, I read Deleuze. I had to read Deleuze in college in a film class, and I remember it did not stand out to me in any way. I guess I could go back and read it, but he was also basically saying that, it's hard to understand. He writes in the same, he writes in that same really difficult to understand language as all of those other people. And you know what? I'm just gonna reject him outright just because of that. Because being a good writer or being smart and a good thinker does not mean you need to be incomprehensible. I actually think it's the total opposite. The best writers write very clearly and succinctly. And if you have to use, too many words, or if you have to use incomprehensible language and too many words and try to sound smarter than you actually are, just stop. It's not going to make you actually sound smarter. So anyway, I joined his Discord server, and I was just looking, and it was all these people introducing themselves and saying, basically what they're into. And it's like, my favorite authors are Walter Benjamin and Deleuze and, just all of that, Baudrillard. I guess some people like Baudrillard, Spinoza, whatever. All of the, like approved philosophers these are not first-rate minds. Like, this stuff needs to go away. This stuff needs to be taken down and not looked at again, because it's not worth it. There's just a lot more stuff out there that would, Derrida. I don't know, Heidegger, I guess. They like Heidegger for whatever reason. They're always preface it, oh, he was a fascist, but for some reason they still like him. I don't know. I never really liked any of it. Walter Benjamin was the worst, though. I had to write a paper on him. Is that Fox Sure? No. Yeah, I had to write a paper on Benjamin. And all they do is deconstruct and criticize everything, and it's not interesting. And the funny thing is, the name of the class that I had to read Walter Benjamin and write that paper was called Cultural Studies. And I took, a class called Cultural Studies because I actually like, studying. I thought we would actually study culture, but it was not that at all. It was just basically like delegitimizing culture. And it was not interesting at all. Anyway, I think I would categorize all of that stuff, all of it, as basically sophistry. And I was actually reading this book. It's kind of a bad discover. This is Jacques Maritain. I don't know if you can read it. I was reading this book, and he describes the sophists really well, and I just want to read this. Okay. So it was Socrates who saved Greek thought from the mortal danger into which the sophists had brought it. Except for the fact that he took no fees for his instruction, his manner of life was externally the same as theirs. Like them, he spent his time in discussions with young men, and it is not surprising that a superficial observer, such as Aristophanes, confused him with the sophists. In reality, he waged against them an unrelenting war and opposed them at every point. The sophists claimed to know everything and did not believe in truth. That sounds really familiar. Yeah, there's no discussion about truth at all. It supposedly doesn't exist. Just truth is what you decide, whatever you want it to be, right? Socrates professed ignorance and taught his hearers to seek nothing but the truth. That's why Socrates was cool. Thus, his entire work was a work of conversion. He reformed philosophic reasoning and directed it to the truth, which is its proper goal. His work was of such importance for the future of the human intellect that it is not strange that Socrates accomplished it as a mission divinely imposed. He possessed not only an extraordinary power of philosophic contemplation, but also something which he himself regarded as demonic or inspired, a winged fervor, a free but measured force. This isn't actually what I was looking for the definition of the sophist. I'm sorry, I was reading the wrong thing. Okay, this is what I meant to read. Okay, describing the sophists, they sought the advantages conferred by knowledge, so far as knowledge brings its possessor power, preeminence, or intellectual pleasure. And that's exactly the same as all these academics. They don't really enjoy reading Walter Benjamin. No one does. No one actually enjoys reading these things. They just do it because either A, it's all they know, or B, they want to advance in their career. With this in view, they put themselves forward as rationalists and walking encyclopedias. To every question, they had an answer ready, deceptively convincing, and they claimed to reform everything, even the rules of grammar and the gender of nouns. But their favorite study was man, of all the most complex and uncertain, but one in which knowledge is easiest coined into power and reputation. And they cultivated most assiduously law, history, casuistry, I don't know how to pronounce that, something, politics, and rhetoric. They preferred to be teachers of virtue. They did not seek truth. Bingo. Since the sole aim of their intellectual activity was to convince themselves and others of their own superiority, they inevitably came to consider as the most desirable form of knowledge the art of refuting and disproving by skillful arguments. For with men and children alike, destruction is the easiest method of displaying their strength, and the art of arguing with equal probability the pros and cons of every question, another proof of acumen and skill. That is to say, in their hands, knowledge altogether lost sight of its true purpose, and what with their predecessors was simply a lack of intellectual discipline became with them the deliberate intention to employ concepts without the least regard for that delicate precision which they demand, but for the pure pleasure of playing them off against the other, an intellectual game of conceptual counters devoid of solid significance. Hence their sophisms or quibbles. Their ethics were of a piece. Every law imposed upon man they declared to be an arbitrary convention, and the virtue they taught was in the last resort either the art of success or what our modern Nietzscheans called the will to power. Thus, of the spirit which had inspired the lofty intellectual ambitions of the preceding age, the sophists retained only the pride of knowledge. The love of truth they had lost. Key. More ardently than their predecessors, they desired to achieve a greatness through knowledge, but they no longer sought reality. If we may use the expression, they believed in knowledge without believing in truth. Absolutely. Okay, here we go. A similar phenomenon has recurred since in the history of thought and on a far larger scale. And I think he's probably referring to the post-structuralists or whatever you want to call them, because that was a huge problem. This book is from 1937. But I think, yeah, these deconstructionists, all they do is deconstruct everything, and there's no discussion about what's actually true and false, and it's all mind games, you know. Oh, I'm reading this book, Jacques Maritain, An Introduction to Philosophy. Yeah, he was a neoscholastic philosopher in the 20th century. Yeah, it's just infuriating. And yeah, what I was saying for people who just got in is that I was looking at this Discord server basically, it does look like David's bookcase, doesn't it? This Discord server with all of these, I'm assuming mostly disaffected academics. And they're all claiming that these post-structural, they actually like this stuff. But I don't know if it's that they just don't know any better. They don't know anything else. Because I don't think anyone really does like this stuff. Olaf, do you want to come on and talk? I'm doing the stream. I was kind of playing off of what you were saying earlier. Yeah, so I just kind of wanted to do a rant about that. It's how men in their 20s status signal. But yeah, why is Justin Murphy writing a book about Deleuze, claiming he's some sort of, wonderful thing? Oh, funny. I commented on his video about that, and he just replied. Wait, hold on. Oh, I told him, go study the neo-scholastics instead. And he just said, okay, I will start as soon as I'm done with this book. Actually, this is my library for everyone who's commenting on that. This is my book room or library or whatever. And it actually looks, during the day, when I have natural light coming in, there's a window right behind my computer. When I have natural daylight coming in, it actually looks like super professional. Anyway, so yeah, I guess my basic point is, people need to, okay, those people in the chat need to see, realize that they've been fooled by this stuff. And, especially these people that are, disappointed in academia or chased out of it. It's like, guys, wake up. It's all fake. It was all fake, not just the SJW stuff. All of that stuff was, a waste of time. It should all be burned. And anyway, I feel like you could still be, even economically left-wing or communist or whatever they are without being into all of that stupid, philosophy stuff. Yeah, so what I think needs to happen is there needs to be like, I'm trying to watch how many likes I say, because sometimes I go over the past videos just to hear how I sound. And it used to be people would always hound me about vocal fry, which is at the end of the sentence, I don't know. If you don't know what it is, look it up. But I'm trying to be more aware of that. And I'm trying to cut out saying like 1,000 times, because it makes me sound less intelligent and it's harder to listen to, and no one wants that. And I just did the fry thing right there. Well, at least I'm aware of it. I am aware of it. Yeah, so if there was a cultural revival, it's not going to come from writing books about Gilles Deleuze and Jacques Lacan, And the funny thing about that is, in the second half of the 20th century and all, this deconstruction thing, shouldn't they be, it's about time they deconstructed the deconstructionists. Kill your idols or whatever. If they're so into smashing everything, just smash all of that other garbage, Okay, I'm gonna check and see what the chat is saying. I'm gonna go all the way back. Okay, I'm glad you guys like my hair. I have sunburn. I don't know how that happened, but I got sunburn. as an academic still in college, just go along with the wokeness. It might seem annoying, but there's no reason to sacrifice your education for politics. See, if I could go back, I think I would have just transferred to, one of these serious, more serious, smaller colleges that has a great books program, because I feel like that's the only way you can get an actual education. And I mean, there's not that many places like that, but there's a handful, and I think that's, if anyone was, really serious about wanting to go into academia or wanting to get an actual education, I would do that. I guess if you're in STEM and you're in a big, state-run university, you can't really avoid it. But that's a completely different story. I remember thinking the same thing about the readings I had in grad school. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't, and you know what? When I was back then, I wasn't even like, I wasn't consciously thinking about it, because when it's that saying, if you're a fish in water, and the saying, the fish in water will say, "What's water?" because it's just there, and it's like that with almost everything. It's hard to criticize something when you don't know, what the alternatives are, I guess, So I wasn't really consciously thinking it, but once I realized that there was other stuff out there, or once I heard other people saying how I feel, then I sort of had the language to criticize it and just reject it. Foucault, yeah. I don't know much about Strauss. I know everyone's been talking about Strauss lately, but I've never read anything by Leo Strauss. Falling for the STEM meme is a mistake I wish I didn't make. Really? I always thought that was, the surefire way to do well. Postmodernists are even worse than sophists. I think they're about the same. They're very similar. I'm just reading the comments here. Enjoying work is such a meme. You should only see work as a means of providing for your loved ones. Yeah, I agree. I have actually been thinking about, I was listening to a couple of podcasts about this today, starting my own business, something, probably something in e-commerce or something like passive income sounds really nice. I don't know how doable that really is full time, but it sounds nice, doesn't it? I feel like I have maybe a talent for, well, I think starting a clothing line or something would be cool, and that's always something I've been really interested in, but the other problem with that is there's so many people doing it. Like, everyone is trying to do that. So maybe it's not such a great idea. I thought it was a really good idea yesterday, and then today I was just kind of looking at stuff, and I was like, wait, there's a million people trying to do this exact thing, so maybe it's not the best idea. What you have to do is find a really good niche, but that's not always possible to do. You work in e-com, there's no such thing as truly. Yeah, the thing is, what I would want to avoid is turning, my house into a warehouse, or just being like a shipping person. So I would want to do something on Fulfillment by Amazon or one of these other, fulfillment companies that just handles that for you. That seems a lot more passive. This isn't a closet. This is a room. It's just really small. But at least I have it. You guys were telling me to calm down about burning modern lit. Okay, that's not iconoclasm. Basics first. If you understand Plato, you won't need to lose. There was no Plato, though. I mean, I guess I wasn't in the classics department, but Plato should be the first thing they teach you in any philosophy class. I guess I never took a proper philosophy class. I was actually taking, cultural studies, which you assume was what it means, but it just wasn't. It was a joke. This looks like a room where someone would keep runaways locked up. Oh, okay. No more comments about the room. Everyone, okay, all I'm getting is comments about the room I'm in and my hair. You started learning Navajo on Duolingo. I just downloaded Duolingo too, and I accidentally clicked on I want to learn Klingon, and now I'm getting reminders every day that I need to do my daily Klingon lesson. My eyes do look blue, don't they? They're green. When you took philosophy, the first thing we read was Plato. Well, you're just a really lucky guy then. Yeah, I don't even know what color my eyes are sometimes. My husband has green eyes. My eyes, I think maybe they change color. And then my kid has really, really bright blue eyes. I had blue eyes when I was a kid too, though. Is it true that I'm secretly best friends with Church of Entropy? I've never talked to Church of Entropy. So no. It takes 50 hours to begin to understand Plato. That makes me feel really intimidated. And like I don't just want to start opening Plato. And they teach it to undergrads as if you can get it in 2 15-minute class sessions where you listen to a professor summarize it. No. Yeah, that sounds about right. I actually do have that Mortimer Adler Great Books set. I found it. I'm like intimidated by it too, though. That's the thing is people, I wish I would have, actually read it in college because I feel like I do need a professor to explain it to me because it is intimidating to just, open it up and start reading it. Why are we talking about the Navajo language? Blue-eyed nationalism? What's your thought on more Jewish people supporting the Republican Party, Trump? Is that happening? I don't know. I haven't really been following it. I know he made some comments, but yeah, I know where I live, the Jews, they're like starting to get really nervous about Ilhan Omar. And yeah, I don't know. I'm not very, let's just say I'm not very connected to the community. And that's the funny thing too is, sometimes I feel like I do spend too much time in these internet echo chambers to the point where, I was reading that, Justin Murphy Discord server, and I was like surprised that, people are saying they like Deleuze and Walter Benjamin and Derrida. But that is what people, academics like, or not like, what they think they're supposed to like, and that's what they say they're going to like. Let's see. Approach it with reverence. These 24-year-olds act like they understand more than Plato did. They're morons. Oh, absolutely, yeah. I was never assigned anything by Plato. It was all Deleuze. The NSA is watching me, guys. That's kind of scary. Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib will not win re-election. I think Ilhan Omar actually maybe will win re-election, at least where I live. Does anyone have a topic suggestion? Because I did have a long list of, oh, actually, no, I did have something I kind of wanted to bring up. I don't know if anyone is all that interested, but I was thinking about, I guess, you know, the evolution of music, like pop music. And I wanted to go back and, well, I'll tell you how this came up. Oh yeah, I have this like really janky record player. I'll show you. It's like a Fisher-Price record player. And I was listening to some old records that I have. I was listening to some old records that I have, and they're rock and roll records. And I was like, hey, I still like this. You know, I don't really listen to that type of thing that much anymore. I used to be really, really into it. Like that was my life. But I just don't really listen to it all that much anymore. But I wanted to go kind of listen to some of that early rock and roll from the 50s and 60s. And oh shoot, I did that up talking thing too. It's like where you sound like you're asking a question, but you aren't asking a question. I just did it there, didn't I? This was like when I first started on YouTube, people would just constantly be harping on me about all of that stuff, and I got so frustrated with trying to fix it that I just stopped making videos for like 2 years. But I am trying to. I like vinyl, okay? I don't have a huge vinyl collection, but it's fun. Anyway, okay, back to what I was saying. Yeah, I went back and I was listening to some of that early rock and roll. I don't know, you guys have to know this song. The song, the Mamas and the Papas, California Dreamin'. Okay, so I love that song. That was one of my favorite songs for a while. But I went and listened to it, and I was like, okay, well, what makes this different from, you know, later rock music, and then also, you know, current pop music? Because the thing is, like, there hasn't really been popular rock music recently. There is still rock music being made and everything, but it's not like, I would say the last time there was like a huge rock band that was, you know, the biggest band in the world was when Nirvana was popular. But it just, I don't know, pop music has really degenerated a lot. Like I am so, you know, basically out of touch with pop music in general, but I know that I don't like it. So I just kind of avoid it. But yeah, so that I was trying to think, okay, what makes that really early, rock and roll that was good, pop music, different. And the thing is, I think I've kind of touched on this before. I think they were, basically rooted in like, their predecessors. So, maybe they grew up with classical music or jazz or whatever, but they had like a better link with tradition and the way you make music. And it's like now people just, it's like I don't know. I remember like when I was playing music, people would think it was really cool if you just like pick up a guitar, and they didn't care if you were actually good at your instrument. It was just, oh, anyone can do this. Anyone can be a musician. Just go for it. That's punk, man. Just go for it. But then, yeah, with that early stuff, it's like they're doing actual, complicated things. And there's pianos, and like organs were really popular in the 60s. And they basically knew what they were doing, and they took it more seriously or something. There was something different going on. Oh, and it's funny, Voxer Respecter, I was kind of listening to some of that. Like, do you remember that song from the 60s, The Spirit in the Sky? It's like, people should still, like, now there's like Hillsong or whatever, and it's like people I understand why people wanted to, why like Christians wanted to make pop music back then, because it actually was kind of cool, and it actually did kind of work. And even that Mamas and the Papas song, they're making references to going to church and stuff like that. Like it wasn't all just completely degenerate or something. Some people say, oh, like all rock and roll is like satanic and evil. But yeah, Norman Greenbaum. Norman Greenbaum. Like who was that guy? He was like some sort of Jewish convert to like evangelical Christianity or something. It's weird stuff, but that song is awesome. Rammstein is degenerate. I was never a Rammstein fan. Randy Rhoads. Yeah, Randy Rhoads is a classical guitarist. Oh, and the other thing, I mentioned this, I think, in my last video, but that Procol Harum song, A Wider Shade of Pale, is a straight ripoff of Bach. A complete straight ripoff of Bach. But that's why it's good, And he came from a whole family that was, they were classical musicians too. Oh, and the other thing that I found that was really weird that I didn't even know existed, and this just showed up on my suggestions when I was listening to all of that, all of the 50s rock, was there was this band, what were they called? The Electric Prunes. They were on this record compilation that was, it was called Nuggets, and it was all these kind of one-off garage songs, but it was a really good record. So that band, the Electric Prunes, they actually wrote like a mass, and that was like showing up on my suggestions, and I was like, this is weird, but it was actually pretty awesome. I thought it was awesome. I mean, it wouldn't be appropriate, like actually in church or something, but I think, people, they probably went to Catholic school or something where they, had that connection to that tradition, and it actually does make you a better musician. Okay, I'm gonna go to the comments now. The Beach Boys, that is like the perfect example of what I'm talking about. They were very sophisticated, and they were doing these, what is it, like different layers of vocals and things that actually there was a band, I don't know if you guys remember the band Animal Collective. I don't know if they're still around. That was popular, like, maybe 10 years ago or something. And they sounded exactly like the Beach Boys. And they were doing all of these crazy harmonies and things. And it was really cool. But I saw them live and it was bad. And I think made a lot of the music on the computer and stuff. But that was a really interesting band. But the funny thing is, you know, I I think, you know, when the Beach Boys did it, it was more original, you know? And I guess people, it's, I know people say this all the time, but everything really has like been done, you know? So this, you know, modern obsession with creativity and always being, you know, as original as possible, like kind of needs to stop, because originality and creativity, well, creativity is important. Originality is overrated. You don't need to be original to be good. Like you don't need to reinvent the wheel every single time. I never listened to My Morning Jacket. I don't know. Iron Maiden, I never really got into Iron Maiden. Yeah, I don't like the computer music either. Jazz is okay. The 60s did ruin everything. Yep, the early rock and roll happened when the music industry could still afford orchestra and arrangers. Exactly, and that's why it's so good, you know? There's a lot of organ in that music too, which I love. And the organ is so cool. It's such a unique instrument because they can just get so big, and there's no other instrument that is really like that I know of. Everything is about rap, hip hop, and socially engineering America into one giant dumbed down ghetto. Yeah, that's definitely true. Rap is everywhere, and you can't avoid it. And the funny thing is, I feel like, you know, in the 90s, there was, and maybe even started in the 80s, there was this huge push towards rap. You know, you had like Kid Rock and Eminem and all of that garbage music. And then I feel like it maybe went away for a little bit, like in the 2000s. Like it wasn't quite as crazy as it was in the late 90s, at least. And then now it does seem like it's maybe not rap, but rap, proper rap, but hip hop. And it's just really bad. Yeah, all rap is not good. I mean, I maybe liked it for a little while, but just because like everyone did. Any thoughts about Eminem? U2, never really liked U2. Fred Durst is an American hero. Danzig. You guys want like a record album tour or something? Let's see what I got here. Oh, this is the first thing I found. This is not mine, this is my husband's. He's really, or he used to at least be really into Black Sabbath. I've never been super into them, but that was just the first record I saw right here. He has a huge vinyl collection though. I'm not singing anything. Those comics where Danzig and Rollins are a gay couple. I know exactly what you're talking about. I've seen that before. Oh, Meth, I found this. I left it aside just so I could show you. Did anyone ever read Clyde Edward Bullough when they were a kid? Because, if anyone has kids, this is the best book for kids who are just learning how to read. They can read it on their own, and these books rule. But I remember you said you like pirates, so I found a pirate book for you. It has nice pictures too. I'm about the swearing. I'm just really sick of people swearing in general. And I was listening to Dennis Dale's stream last night, and he was swearing every other word, and it really annoyed me. So everyone just stop swearing altogether because it makes you sound really dumb. And people swear way too much, and I'm sick of it. Feck. I have an original Black Sabbath Paranoid album, and I'm not a boomer, but a zoomer. Wow, that's pretty cool. Dennis de-wrenched everyone too. Oh, I hope he's not watching, but his streams are a little bit depressing. Sorry, Dennis, if you're listening. I'm sorry. I don't think he is listening, but it was just, Dennis is your hero, really? I mean, yeah, he's nice, but the stream, was a little too depressing for me. He banned John Harris for trying to help him. You said F you to a guy on the street today. That's not very nice. Don't swear. Why did he ban John? What was the reason? Dennis has some sort of beef against Luke Ford. I don't want this to turn into a gossiping stream. Well, I mean, I want to keep going, but now I guess this can just be like a chat room. John got mad at you because you called him a sinner. Luke banned Dennis for not being high Q enough. No cursing, no gossiping. Heck, just that. Okay, that's actually pretty funny. I've never read Ghost, so I can't talk about it. Sorry. But I guess that makes me an uneducated Philistine. OBS. I did actually download OBS on my other computer, so I could use it. We could look at Twitter or something like that. I'll bring it up. This always happens. I make a long list of topics to discuss, and then after 20 minutes, I run out of things to talk about. And then I have to go trying to think of things to do. And then someone will write a comment that I need to be better prepared. No apologies is streaming right now. That's a good one too. Probably more interesting than this. Kyle is too high IQ to sin. Kyle doesn't believe in sin because it's not a measurable metric. Okay. It's not a measurable statistic, so sin isn't real. Everyone knows that. Come on, guys. It's 2019. Oh, did you guys see that NBC News article? We could look at that. Here, I'll bring it up. This is just kind of silly. Did you guys see this? I'll read it. I don't like Lord of the Rings, no. Okay. And what's funny about this is okay, I actually have to end this. All right. Sorry about that. Have a good night.